quickly by physical access than we've seen traditionally with logical access, at least for the last decade. Physical access is getting really big. Some of the things that we're seeing are a really good regulatory environment to support this. We, of course, have the FIPS 201, which says the federal government is supposed to use their credentials for physical access. But each agency has had to come up with their own plan for how they wanted to do that. And really, the DoD is the only one that has come out with something that was called DTMO 9012 last year. And that one is the first of its kind amongst the federal agencies that says, I have to put a PKI-aware or PIV-aware system on my exterior doors. We haven't seen that with other agencies so far, and in 2011 we're definitely going to be seeing that. We're going to be seeing that for a couple of reasons. The first reason is that there is a overarching group within the federal government now called the FICAM or the ICAMS, the Identity Credential and Access Management Committee. And that group dictates what the rules are for how security is done across the federal agencies, and specific to identity credentials and identity management, how those credentials are to be used, which ones are to be accepted, and when. And there is a portion of the ICAM specification coming out either at the end of this month or in January that CertiPath is participating in that's specific to physical access. Right. Now, the other proof positive that it isn't just a defense agency sort of thing is that HHS recently awarded a contract under a BPA, and CertiPath happened to be on the winning team for that. But that is a contract specific to doing high assurance physical access system across not only all of HHS and its supported agencies, but it's open to the entire rest of the federal government for procuring every possible service that one might want related to physical access. And so those are the sorts of hallmarks of a new sort of mandate that's actually going to be implemented. So we're seeing that in large part going down in 2011. I suppose some other things that are interesting for 2011 is the requirements that are being put onto contractors to federal facilities, right? And so these people are now being requested, go and get PIV-I credentials so that you too can get access to my federal facility. I've replaced the lock on my front door. It no longer will take a prox badge. It no longer will allow you to share badges with other people. Now you have to have a badge that's uniquely tied to you, Mr. Contractor. And if you don't show up for work one day and you've got to send a replacement, well, that person better have their own badge as well because they can't use yours. Right? So that's really a complete culture change and culture shift for the contractors that are coming into federal facilities. So that'll be a big part of 2011 is everybody sort of waking up and saying, oh, this is really a sort of a serious thing. It's having an impact on me. In 2011, I think we're also going to see an inflection point from what I call the 3 phases of adoption model. So most technology related to security, and it might be, I'm sure it's not unique to security, but certainly it plays a role in security, starts with governments adopting technology early on. Tends to be a little more expensive, a little more experimental. They get to inject a lot of requirements. And then as that technology, whatever it is, as it starts to mature and starts to be a little more useful, you'll see it start to be adopted by private industry, typically contractors to the government. Right? Aerospace and defense primes are a good example of people that typically adopt security technologies that the government played with for a while first. And then ultimately it trickles down to the consumer space. So in 2011, we're going to start seeing some of these physical access, high assurance physical access technologies starting to be adopted by the private sector. Now, whether this is at the Lockheeds and the Boeings or Northrop Grumman's, or this is at some other non-traditional companies, well, it's not really as clear. We're actually working with 2 companies right now that are non-traditional providers to the DoD that want to use this as a marketing advantage. They'd like the DoD to be able to use their common access cards when they come to their facility, and they think that they'll win more business as a result. Right? So there are some interesting crossover points, and that starts to tell me that we're starting to tip over into the private industry, right, the industrial sector. As more consumer applications come online, perhaps a high assurance credit card that happens to get me a discount at some stores, right? Then you'll start to see some of these identity credentials even bleeding into the consumer space. I think that's more of a 2012, 2013 type thing, but we can see it getting there, right? The path is pretty clear.